back to the channel, and today is the big one. This is my favourite video of the year to make, and that is my top 10 books of 2024. These are really the best books from my best ever reading year. This year has been really exceptional for me. I was very, very strict with myself. I chose only the books that I thought were going to be very, very good. I have an average reading rating this year of slightly over 4 stars. Which means that these books are all going to be, they're all going to be a lot more than 4 stars. And as always, I'd like to come in with one honourable mention. Now, this was very, very tough. I had a lot of books that I had rated more than 4 stars this year that were hovering up towards 4.5 stars that could have made the list. But I'm going to go with one that I think will not get enough recognition. And that is James Clavell's Gaijin. It is a massive book, and it is a story arc that is not finished. Unfortunately, James Clavell died before he was able to finish this story. So these 1,200 pages here represent what he managed to put onto page for the story. And again, because it's James Clavell, it is exceptional. The writing in this is so fantastic. What he does really, really well is his plotting and his characters. And yes, I understand there is a big drop-off in quality below Taipan and Shogun, but it still manages to be one of the best examples of the year for me of character and plotting. And James Clavell's Gaijin makes it as my honourable mention for this year's top 10. So let's get into the number 10. Let's get into the list proper. And at 10 is Agatha Christie, and this is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. I am surprised an Agatha Christie novel has managed to make it on this list, but more because of the nature of the novels. They're not aiming for kind of literary mastery, you know, deep themes or anything like that. What this does is distills the whodunit, you know, country mystery to right down to its essence, and it delivers a perfect kind of representation of the genre. And as far as my enjoyment went, for books this year, this does make my top 10. I think it is close to perfect in what it does, and that gives it a very high score for me personally. Really, really enjoyable novel. You might not be a crime or thriller person if you're watching my channel, but if you feel like you want to pick up a cozy mystery, I do not think you can go wrong. This is my favourite Poirot novel I've read so far, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. I would start with that personally if I were you. At number 9, quite a change, and that is It's Midnight Tides by Stephen Erickson. Now, this is a book from Malazan, Book of the Fallen, and that is a series that obviously is lots of large books. It's a big time commitment, but I think this is a way for me to tell people that this is the series is worth your time. This book has incredible characters. It manages to deliver humour in a very, very bleak and dark world, which is one of the things about this novel that I really, really enjoyed and I thought was exceptionally well done. This has unbelievably deep world building. There is an uncountable number of characters in this series, and early on in this series as well, there's a lot of switching to different parts of the world and different kind of types of storytelling. But I think they've been getting better as they've gone on, and Midnight Tides is my favourite so far. Yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars, and it is my number 9 this year. At number 8, I'm pleased to say I went back and reread and enjoyed immensely The Pit and the Pendulum by Edgar Allan Poe. Now, this is only a short story. It's probably 10 to 11,000 words, and you can read it in one sitting. But it has insane, you know, quality. The atmosphere, the feeling it gives you, the kind of insight it gives you into the torment of a character, the way it manages to set a scene with such disparate elements is so impressive. It's a masterclass in writing. Edgar Allan Poe, I don't know if this is his best work, but I think it's probably one of his top 3 works, if you ask me. Yeah, going back and rereading this was an absolute joy, and it makes my number 8 for that reason. At number 7, another piece of epic fantasy, and that is Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings. I really enjoyed the first Mistborn trilogy, but there were elements in there that weren't for me necessarily. I was a little bit cautious coming into The Way of Kings. I'm happy to say I think this is probably of a similar quality to the Final Empire, that first Mistborn novel, in that it has really, really good world building. It has engaging characters. It doesn't give you too many points of view. It could have done with a little bit of editing. It is 1,250 pages, but it does deliver. Again, it delivers on character, it delivers on world building, it delivers on plot, and it's just a really well put together novel. Yeah, I think if you're into modern epic fantasy, I think that's a pretty good example of what is good in the genre. A different type of fantasy novel now. In next, at number 6, is Joe Abercrombie's Best Served Cold. This is a lot of people's favourite Abercrombie, and I can see why. It has a couple of the better returning characters from the First Law series, and it's an action movie in book form. It's very, very plot heavy. It's full of twists, full of action, and it's a real romp. If you want a kind of medieval fantasy romp, this is the one. This is the book for you. Now it's time for the top 5. There are some serious big hitters in here. There's some important literature in here. These top 5 are the top 5 for a reason. They stand head and shoulders above any of the novels I've read this year. And the first of those, at number 5, is The Count of Monte Cristo. Now, this has one of the best beginnings to a novel I have ever read. It has one of my favourite characters from a novel that I've ever read. I really, really enjoyed Dumas and his writing. I think he has a great way to give you absolutely different levels of the emotional spectrum. You will be absolutely, feel joy and humour and, kind of tragedy. He's so good at kind of being very melodramatic and drawing those emotions from his characters and from the reader. It is a very, very long novel, but well worth its space at number 5. And number 4, I think, is my surprise of the year. I was not expecting, after book 5, for the 6th novel in a series to catch me off guard, but Lord of Chaos by Robert Jordan, the 6th book, an enormous book, it might even be the longest book in the whole of the Wheel of Time, is exceptional. Didn't need particularly any more editing. It is a 1,000-page novel, but it's 1,000 pages delivered just almost perfectly in the epic fantasy genre. I really, really enjoyed book 3 in the series. I thought book 4 was very good, but not quite as good. And I thought book 5, again, I was seeing a downturn for me personally, my enjoyment and the quality of the writing from Robert Jordan, and he just picked it up again. I think he's captured that magic from kind of books 2 through 3 and the early parts of book 4. And I think he's delivered 1,000 pages of that magic captured in a bottle in Lord of Chaos. And yes, it was above The Count of Monte Cristo for me, which shocked me, absolutely shocked me. But it is my number 4 pick for the year. And number 3, that is Roadside Picnic by the Strugatsky brothers. Now, this is a piece of Russian literature. It is a sci-fi work. It is the basis for the Stalker universe. So this has been extrapolated into a movie and a video game because it is such a great piece of work. It is very Russian. It is very bleak, but with a real kind of sarcastic humor texture to it. It's hard to explain until you've read some Russian novels, but it is just ostensibly very Russian, and it is very deep. It's very human in its approach. It's very analog and visceral. It's a great novel. It's not very long. It's my number 3. If you get a chance, if you've got room for, probably 250 pages on your TBR, I do not think you'll find many better than Roadside Picnic. But one that is better, and that is saying something. This was a tough pick to where to put this on this list because it is such an exceptional novel, and that is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This was my pick for June on the Range. This is a book that has done the rounds on Booktube, and it is difficult for a book to deliver when you have high aspirations for it. When people have recommended it to you and said, look, this is an exceptional story, it's hard to explain just how well this book delivers. It is so well written that even if nothing is happening, even if the characters aren't being, put through the ringer, so to speak, you're able to deliver real kind of engagement, character level engagement, real drama from the smallest acts, the way people interpret conversations between each other, day-to-day life, and when characters are parted, when we, like in real life, when we are parted from people that we like, we care about, or even those that we don't like, it has a profound effect on the world and the characters inside it. It's a very long novel. I think in paperback it was about 900 pages, but it is such a pure novel. It's such a great read. It's a great time. It has a real vibe. I absolutely love this novel. I'm surprised it was not my #1 book of the year, but I had big high hopes for another book this year, and I didn't think it had any shot at being my #1 book of the year, but my book of the year goes to Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. I gave this 5 stars, not a single percent lower than 5 perfect stars. I absolutely love this novel. It transported me in an obscure way to a psychedelic world, a version of the future that was beyond what I was expecting. It delivered more themes than I was expecting, more humanity, more characters, more texture. It was such a beautiful read. It took me out of my everyday life, and the kind of 2.5 days I've read this over, it was almost like a fever dream. It was like when you were young and you were unwell, and maybe you remember reading something when you were a kid or watching a movie, and it was kind of a transformative experience. This novel made me feel like that. Every time I read it, I forgot where I was. I forgot what I was doing. I was pondering the world, the nature of the consciousness for the androids, for the humans involved. If they are, who is. It's big deep themes in this novel, not just the obvious ones as well. So much around religion in there, so much around how we live, commercialization of everything. It's a beautiful novel, and it is lauded. I think it's not lauded enough, and I already know how much how highly revered this novel is. But yeah, I think everyone should give it a go. It won't be everyone's cup of tea. If it clicks with you, though, it has a shot at being your favourite novel, just like it was for me this year. Those are my top 10 books of the year. Please put your top 10 list in the comments below, because I am super nosy and I love nothing more than top 10 lists.